Russia's offensive seems slow to start. We're asking ourselves, where are the gains? But more importantly, Russian MilBloggers are losing their minds over some viral footage of this offensive. We are going to be breaking it all down right now. I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. It's February 11th, 2023. This is your daily Ukraine update. Let's get into it. Okay, first, when we look at the control map, the changes are extremely minimal. One is to the south here. Let's see. I think it's not even near Volodar, but right around here. Let's see. Oh no, maybe I got it wrong. It's right here. It's right here. Now you may be like, Paul, this isn't Zaporizhzhia. Is this anything resembling the location of the actual offensive? And the answer is no. It's not even clear that this is changing hands. I guess there is some sort of attack in this Mirne. As we have talked about, it seems like part of Russian strategy is to fix Ukrainians in their locations, oftentimes by forcing them into fights that, while their forces will easily be able to win, those forces cannot be diverted elsewhere while they're in contact. It's very hard to withdraw forces while they are in contact with the enemy. And so I suspect these efforts in Mirne are part of that. The other, of course, major change is in this Parastarovika. You can see it's switched languages on us, but it is here outside of Krasnohora, continuing Russian efforts to encircle the city, but you can see Ukrainian forces are actually held in there. This looks like less than 100 meters of progress in that encirclement, and I really suspect Ukrainian forces are maintaining this corridor so that forces in Krasnohora and Paraskovika can complete their withdrawal and work their way into new defensive positions. There's not really much of a reason to try to defend this area, given it's so proximate to this very vulnerable exfil route. But that's it. That's the story as far as changes. When we look at the combat map, you can see Ukrainian forces are reporting that there's ongoing fighting or ongoing attacks by Russian forces along this Kreminna-Lyman axis. Bilohorivka continued pushing in and around Bakhmut, but that's basically it. And it's not clear if Russia is going back to the drawing board on their offensive, if this is part of a planned operational pause, if this offensive has some sort of phases at work. But, again, I can only apply the doctrine that I know. And that is NATO doctrine, which holds that when you launch an offensive, it's the decisive effort. You want to be decisive on day one, when your forces are fresh, when your element of surprise and your initiative is at its apex. And then as time goes on, right, the enemy has more time to react to you. You lose initiative. You're more likely to encounter the number of problems that your subordinate commanders and you have to solve grow exponentially. More damaged tanks, more depleted units, more longer, more tenuous supply lines. And so in my way of thinking, and my understanding is that this is fundamental to warfare, is that you want to go hard in the paint on day one. This gradual building up, what it turns into is like an exercise, or like, imagine you want to push someone over, right? You wouldn't walk up to them and sort of lean on them gently and then lean harder and harder. You'd give them time to brace. If you want to knock someone over, you run up to them and, give them a hard tackle. So the fact that Russia's big offensive, it's not clear that they're doing it is perplexing. Again, doesn't mean, I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh, Russia has no strategy. It's just a strategy that, if there is one, it's so unconventional that I'm not sure what to make of it. Again, they could be continuing to probe and look for the place where their main force of their offensive is going to decisively press. But this is, even if it's along this Lyman-Crimina axis, this is a large amount of territory. And it would be really hard, let's say, if they decide that, oh, Crimina-Lyman is the axis we're going to advance on. Well, you have to marshal everybody who's in Seethe and north of that and drive them down to Crimina and put them on the offensive. It's a lot of work, and it's not clear that that would be a great strategy. So a lot of head scratching, but I'm not the only one who's scratching their heads from this. When we look at the Institute for the Study of War, it turns out that if you guys that are subscribed to the Patreon know that we checked out some viral videos on the video that dropped yesterday. The link's in the description. You can still get at the video and all the archive of the combat video breakdowns on the Patreon. It's where I put most of the stuff that I can't really watch on YouTube, you know, drone footage and that sort of thing. One of the videos we checked out was actually a Russian armored offensive near Volodar. And it looked pretty recent because of the weather conditions. And it was really, really amateurish. Like it appeared that some of the crews weren't able to operate the vehicles properly. It looks like some of the troops appeared to be attempting to follow protocol. It was a tank that hit a mine, and normally you want to pull up alongside it with a functioning tank, get the crew Kazavaked into that armored vehicle, right? You have a tank in front and a tank behind pulling security, keeping them safe. You get that crew over. You decide right then and there if you can tow the tank. If you can't, right, you're going to want to then move out along a safe route, right? A route without any more mines. And what you saw instead was absolutely embarrassing. It wasn't embarrassing. That's unfair to the soldiers. It was a reflection of the lack of training and inadequate leadership. About 50 to 60% of those soldiers abandoned their vehicles and fled on foot in panic. And you could see as more and more soldiers panicked and fled, those soldiers that remained and were trying to do the right thing slowly also started to panic. You could literally see panic spread throughout the unit. You watched even basic actions like staying inside of a cleared path. Many of the tank crews seemed unable to do it. They weren't able to turn their tanks around. It was really, really strange, and a testament to the fact that even Russian active duty units have taken so much attrition that these replacement troops don't appear to have any of the training and none of the leadership to do the right thing. Now, it looks like the Russian MilBlogger space, like your favorite English language MilBlogger, it's fine. I know it's Ryan Macbeth. You don't need to tell me. They are also pretty upset by this footage, as I was. Right? They have latched onto the footage and critiqued Russian military leadership. Basically, they've came to the same conclusion I do, which things are bad when me and the right-wing Russian MilBloggers are saying the same thing, that these are the same disastrous assaults run by this naval infantry brigades, Russian Marines, basically, near Pavlivka in November. And as we talked about in previous videos, it seems like these guys are trying to redeem themselves in the eyes of the public by actually seizing Volodar. The problem is they couldn't seize it when they had the A-team staffing, running these tanks and staffing these units. They definitely can't do it with the, really, it wasn't even junior varsity. This was like the pickup league basketball version of warfare. Only unlike pickup league basketball, where when you lose, you just get roasted by your buddies at the bar, in this war, you might literally get roasted by thermite. So these guys are running the exact same mistakes. Yes, it looked like an underpowered assault, just a handful of tanks. These guys are calling for the public trials to punish high-ranking officers who repeatedly fail on the battlefield. And if they don't, Russian forces will continue to repeat the same mistakes. Then remember, these guys, these MilBloggers, are the most pro-Russian voice in the space. Okay, can you imagine what the anti-Russian anti-Ministry of Defense, anti-war faction would say if they were allowed on Russian social media. This is bananas. And they said these dysfunctional tactics indicative that the unit is comprised of poorly trained, mobilized personnel. Yeah, actually, this is Institute of Study of War's assessment, is that it shows more about the poorly trained personnel than poor command. They're two sides of the same coin. A good commander is going to assign his troops to tasks and missions that they are capable of handling. They're also, at the same time, going to take the time to train their troops properly and establish something resembling unit cohesion. Of course, so this idea that poor command or poor training by mobilized personnel, they're one and the same. And at the end of the day, though, the Institute for the Study of War does correctly point out that no amount of skilled commander can overcome untrained troops. And this is the real lesson in this. I think this entire war that we're learning is that, in the First World War, the Second World War, Russia was able to get away with some of these tactics because there was a effective battlefield role for limited trained troops. But the truth is that role is being diminished in the face of modern warfare. In NATO, we call them force multipliers. This is the idea that technology, let's say an aircraft or an armored vehicle or a drone, is powerful itself. And an infantry squad is powerful. But when you have an infantry squad that knows how to talk to and coordinate with a tank or a drone, or all three, it becomes more than just the sum of its parts. In business, they sometimes call it synergy. And we can see how it plays out here. You have an infantry squad, they have a drone. That drone lets them see ahead and direct the fire on their tanks. It also allows them to the infantry squad can protect the tank against anti-armor teams. It can clear mines and clear a path, clear anti-tank mines that obviously a light infantry won't set off. So you have all these advantages, but look at all the skills I just described that infantry squad and that tank need to be able to execute those tasks. Mine clearing, radio comms, mapping, planning, calculating distances and trajectories, being able to even just like read a map. And these are skills that you need to give time to build in professional soldiers. And we see the videos like we saw on the Patreon, like these Russian MilBloggers are talking about, and you cannot solve them with quantity. It's so much more powerful. Even if you have fewer troops with more technological enablers and more training, is going to be orders of magnitude more powerful than these poorly trained Russian troops. Anyway, guys, that's all I had. Thanks so much as always, and I will see you guys in the next one. Oh, and of course, thanks so much to all of the patrons of Patreon. Right, I got to shout you guys out. You guys are the ones who make this whole thing possible. Thanks to our Colonel tier patron, Thomas McLeod, and all of our Lieutenant tier patrons. I really do appreciate you guys and hope you guys get something out of it. And I'll see you guys in the next one.